Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. Kind of sounds a little bit like the conversation you just had about wanting the spotlight. This is what I said about it, and I love it. I want to see them going at it. I want to see them playing physical. I want to keep this racist crap off the court where it belongs.
Secondly, as much as we love Angel Reese because she is special, she's not Caitlin Clark as a player. Caitlin Clark is on a different level. We just have to own that. Angel Reese can rebound the basketball. She's a damn good player. She's got a bright future in the WNBA, but Caitlin Clark is next level. That's number 2.
Stephen A. Smith, ESPN's most outspoken personality and influential voice in sports media, has dropped a bombshell that sent shockwaves through the WNBA community and beyond. In a stunning declaration that left fans and players alike in disbelief, Smith publicly rejected the very notion of a rivalry between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark.
Oh, first of all, it's not a rivalry. Not when you lose about 35 points.
That's true.
It's not rivalry. Indiana Fever's on a different level than the Chicago Sky. Let's get that out the way.
A dynamic that has been central to the WNBA's recent surge in popularity and media attention. There's no rivalry between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, Smith stated definitively during an appearance on the Rich Eisen Show, his words landing like a thunderclap in a basketball world that had built an entire narrative around the supposed tension between these two young stars. The timing of Smith's controversial take could hardly have been more explosive, coming just days after a heated on-court incident between Reese and Clark that had already ignited fierce debate across social media platforms.
Why, sports supporters? Well, I told you guys there would be a follow-up video on the nuclear fallout. That's exactly what it's been. Over the take foul, as Caitlin Clark is calling it, and that's a great way to say it. It was a take foul. She was trying to prevent a wide-open layup, although one could argue that...
During a recent matchup between the Chicago Sky and Indiana Fever, Clark was assessed a flagrant foul for contact with Reese, a moment that instantly went viral and reignited discussions about the pair's contentious history dating back to their collegiate confrontation in the 2023 NCAA championship game. That game, which featured Reese's now infamous "you can't see me" gesture directed at Clark, had been widely credited with establishing the foundation of what many considered the most marketable rivalry in women's basketball history. Smith's dismissal of this narrative struck at the heart of how the WNBA has been positioning its product to attract new viewers. League executives and marketing teams had leaned heavily into the Reese-Clark dynamic, understanding that personal rivalries have historically driven interest in professional sports. The Michael Jordan-Isaiah Thomas feud helped propel the NBA to new heights in the late 1980s and early 1990s. The Boston Celtics-Los Angeles Lakers rivalry transformed basketball into must-see TV by suggesting that no such authentic rivalry exists between Reese and Clark. Smith wasn't just offering a contrarian opinion, he was potentially undermining a key marketing strategy for a league still fighting for mainstream attention. Reports quickly emerged suggesting that Angel Reese was furious about Smith's comments, with multiple sources claiming she went nuts upon hearing her dynamic with Clark dismissed so casually by one of sports media's most influential voices. While Reese has maintained a relatively measured public response, her apparent frustration is understandable on multiple levels. For an athlete who has worked tirelessly to establish herself as a star in her own right, being told that her most high-profile competitive relationship isn't legitimate could feel like a profound dismissal of her significance in the league's narrative. More troublingly, it could be interpreted as suggesting that she isn't worthy of being considered Clark's true rival, a particularly sensitive implication given the racial dynamics that have unfortunately colored much of the discourse surrounding these two players. The controversy deepened when ESPN colleague Ryan Clark publicly disagreed with aspects of the narrative being pushed by some commentators.
No, there's a line in life that you just simply don't cross. Wives and children are always off limits, and Ryan Clark has sprinted past that. Ryan Clark didn't like my sports take that Angel Reese hates it, and that's fine. It's okay. It's part of the game.
In a heated exchange that highlighted the internal divisions even within major sports networks, Clark took issue with fellow analyst Robert Griffin III's characterization of the situation. Griffin had suggested that Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark, not some basketball rivalry hate either. Hate. This escalation of rhetoric from rivalry to hate represented a dangerous shift in the conversation, one that threatened to transform legitimate athletic competition into something far more personal and potentially toxic. Smith, to his credit, seemed to recognize this distinction, advocating for embracing the competitive nature of sports without descending into accusations of personal animosity. The social media response to Smith's comments revealed deep divisions among basketball fans. Clark supporters largely embraced Smith's take, many suggesting that Reese's apparent fixation on Clark was one-sided and born more of jealousy than genuine competitive fire.
Her attention, her notoriety is based off Caitlin Clark. Because she wins the national title, first thing she does, she mocks Caitlin Clark. And then she doesn't even celebrate with her teammates. So she's made it personal.
Angel Reese is nowhere near Caitlin Clark's league, wrote one commenter, echoing a sentiment expressed by many who view Clark's historic statistical achievements as placing her in a category above her peers. Reese defenders countered that Smith's dismissal of the rivalry represented yet another example of the media attempting to diminish Reese's accomplishments and importance to the league, with some suggesting racial bias as a motivating factor in the coverage disparities between the two players. What makes this situation particularly complex is that both Reese and Clark have generally avoided directly fueling the rivalry narrative in their public comments. Clark has consistently praised Reese's talents and competitive spirit, while Reese once told reporters in October 2023 that she would want to be teammates with Clark, hardly the statement of someone harboring genuine hatred. This disconnect between the athlete's actual words and the media narrative surrounding them raises important questions about responsibility in sports coverage and the potential harm of manufacturing conflict where it may not authentically exist. The controversy reached new heights when reports emerged that the WNBA had launched an investigation into alleged racist comments directed at Reese during the recent Fever Sky game. This development added another layer of complexity to an already volatile situation, highlighting the troubling undercurrents that have sometimes characterized fan behavior in the wake of the Reese-Clark narrative. Clark, for her part, condemned any inappropriate fan behavior, stating firmly that such comments had no place in basketball or society, a stance that earned her praise from some quarters, but skepticism from others who questioned whether her fan base was doing enough to police its more problematic elements. Stephen A. Smith's advice to both players was characteristically direct. Embrace this, he urged, suggesting that the competitive tension between them, whether a true rivalry or not, was beneficial for both their personal brands and the league as a whole. It's okay, because all y'all doing is competing, he added, attempting to reframe the narrative in more positive terms. This perspective reflects the traditional sports media view that conflict drives interest and that athletes should lean into rather than shy away from the dramatic narratives that surround their competitions. What Smith may have underestimated, however, was how his dismissal of the rivalry's legitimacy would be received by Reese, who has often felt that her contributions to women's basketball's growing popularity have been undervalued compared to Clark's.
But the eyeballs on the WNBA really have to do with Caitlin Clark. Now, you might, if you stay long enough, maybe you'll see something or someone there you go, okay, I'm entertained by this. But there's nothing wrong with admitting that you watch a sport because of one singular person.
Behind the scenes, sources close to Reese suggest that her frustration stems not from Smith's call for embracing competition, but from what she perceives as a double standard in how she and Clark are covered by major media outlets. When Clark displays competitive fire or engages in trash talk, she is often praised for her passion and competitive spirit. When Reese exhibits similar behavior, she has sometimes been characterized as unsportsmanlike or excessively aggressive. This disparity in coverage has created a no-win situation for Reese. Embrace the villain role and face criticism, or attempt to soften her image and potentially compromise the authentic competitive spirit that has made her one of the WNBA's most compelling personalities. The timing of this controversy is particularly significant for the WNBA, which has experienced unprecedented growth in viewership and cultural relevance over the past year. Television ratings for games featuring Clark and Reese have shattered previous records, with millions tuning in to watch their on-court confrontations. The subsequent social media drama, while potentially divisive, has undeniably kept the WNBA at the center of the sports conversation, the kind of sustained attention that women's sports have historically struggled to achieve. League officials now face the delicate task of harnessing the energy of this moment without allowing it to devolve into the kind of toxic discourse that could alienate potential new fans. Sports psychologists and media experts have weighed in on the controversy, noting how social media has fundamentally transformed the nature of sports rivalries. In previous eras, athletes' interactions were largely limited to their on-court encounters, with occasional comments in post-game interviews or press conferences. Today, every like, comment, or follow becomes potential fodder for speculation and controversy, creating constant pressure for athletes to manage not just their athletic performance, but their digital personas as well. This new reality adds an unprecedented layer of psychological complexity to professional sports, particularly for young athletes like Reese and Clark, who are still adjusting to the intense scrutiny that comes with their newfound fame. The controversy has also sparked important conversations about media responsibility in covering women's sports. Critics argue that by focusing so intensely on the personal dynamic between Reese and Clark, media outlets have diverted attention from their remarkable athletic achievements and the overall quality of play in the WNBA. Others counter that personal narratives have always been essential to marketing sports effectively, and that the Reese-Clark dynamic, whether a true rivalry or not, has brought unprecedented attention to women's basketball. Finding the right balance between highlighting compelling personal stories and respecting athletes' humanity remains a challenge for sports media navigating this new landscape. For Reese, the implications of Smith's comments extend beyond mere hurt feelings. As an athlete working to build her brand and secure endorsement opportunities, being positioned as Clark's legitimate rival offered significant commercial advantages. Companies seeking to capitalize on the WNBA's growing popularity might be less inclined to invest in Reese if the prevailing narrative suggests she isn't truly on Clark's level or a central figure in the league's most compelling storyline. This economic reality adds another dimension to Reese's reported frustration, highlighting the very real financial implications that media narratives can have on athletes' careers and earning potential. The controversy has also revealed troubling racial undertones in how the Reese-Clark dynamic has been covered and discussed. Some observers have noted that the characterization of Clark as the humble, hard-working hero and Reese as the antagonistic emotional foil plays into problematic racial stereotypes that have long plagued sports coverage. By dismissing the legitimacy of the rivalry, Smith may have inadvertently reinforced these narratives, suggesting that Reese's role in the league's growth story is somehow less significant or authentic than Clark's. These racial dynamics add layers of complexity to what might otherwise be dismissed as simple sports drama, connecting this controversy, broader societal conversations about race, representation, and media bias. As the dust begins to settle on this latest controversy, both Reese and Clark have attempted to refocus attention on their on-court performances. Both players have posted impressive statistics in recent games, demonstrating the remarkable talent that made them stars in the first place. This return to basketball fundamentals offers perhaps the most constructive path forward, allowing their play to speak for itself while letting fans and media draw their own conclusions about the nature of their competitive relationship. Whether a true rivalry exists between them ultimately matters less than the fact that both athletes are pushing women's basketball to new heights of popularity and excellence. The most significant outcome of this controversy may be how it highlights the growing cultural significance of women's basketball, that a single comment from Stephen A. Smith about the WNBA could generate days of passionate debate across multiple platforms represents a seismic shift in the sport's relevance. Just a few years ago, such a controversy would have been unimaginable, not because sports personalities were more measured in their comments, but because women's basketball simply didn't command that level of public attention and engagement. Whatever one thinks about Smith's take or Reese's reported reaction, the intensity of the response demonstrates just how far women's basketball has come in capturing the sports world's imagination. For the WNBA itself, the controversy presents both opportunities and challenges. The unprecedented attention has brought new viewers to the sport, many of whom might stay for the compelling basketball even after the social media drama fades. At the same time, league officials worry about the potential for fan bases to become increasingly tribal and antagonistic, potentially creating an atmosphere that detracts from the game's growing family-friendly image. Finding the balance between embracing the passion of competition and maintaining a respectful environment will be crucial for the league's continued growth. As basketball fans await the next chapter in this unfolding drama, one question remains at the center of the controversy. Is there truly a legitimate rivalry between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark? Or has the entire narrative been manufactured by media seeking compelling storylines and viral moments? The answer, like so much in modern sports, likely contains elements of both truth and fiction, a complex reality that resists the simple narratives we crave. What's undeniable, however, is that women's basketball has never been more relevant, more discussed, or more compelling, and for that, perhaps, both Reese and Clark deserve our admiration, regardless of whether Stephen A. Smith considers them true rivals or not.